Hello everyone and welcome back to Happy Human Club. I'm Soph. I'm the host of this podcast, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see we are joined by Augie. So if you hear any weird chewing or slobbering actually he's going under the covers at the moment. You guys, if you're listening, go to the YouTube video right now of this and just watch Augie burrow himself into the blanket. Anyways, hi guys, welcome back to Happy Human Club. I am so happy to be here. I first want to address, because I know last episode I was like, I really want to do every week. And then I also voiced that I was nervous about it because I had a lot of travel coming up and whatnot. Yeah, I'm gonna be completely honest. I totally overpromised. Once a week is just too much right now. I edit all my own YouTube videos and everything I do on the production side on my own, and if I want to have any sort of life at all, it just is not reasonable to have a podcast every week, but every other week is a lot more doable. So last week I fully planned to still record and post a podcast, and then literally did not have time to do it, just with vlogs. And last week I had a few work events which take up a good chunk of an afternoon, evening. So it just wasn't in the cards. And then I was just like, you know what? It's once a week is just too much right now. And I just have to admit that. And that, I don't know why, but I hold myself to such high standards. And especially if I say I'm going to do something, it really hurts my pride to be like, wait, I can't, I'm not capable. But it is what it is. It's really not the end of the world. And I would rather put out a podcast every other week for you guys and not burn myself out versus put it out every week and just completely run myself to the ground. Plus, like I said, I do have travel coming up, pretty much traveling. Well, I am traveling through the end of this month, and then beginning of November, I also have a bunch of travel. And then I have the month of November to chill out. However, then Vlogmas starts and all the craziness of December. So once a week was just too much. So I do apologize for promising something that I'm not going to be delivering, but I think we can guarantee at least most of the time an every other week podcast. So that is exciting because I'd rather it be that than nothing. And I feel like this is a good happy medium. But before we get any further into today's episode, I first just want to plug my social media. So you guys can find me at Soph on every social media platform except Snapchat. Snapchat is SOPHERR. Also, if you guys have been following me on Instagram and Snapchat and everything, you'll know I've been on such a reading journey. So I also started a Goodreads where you guys can kind of follow along on that journey. I put whatever book I'm reading, books I want to read, books I've read. And then once I read them, I give them a star rating, so out of 5, and it's just really fun. I go through every once in a while and I'll add you guys back on there because I like to see what you guys read. So it's really fun. And then I also have passes if you want some more VIP content, PG-13 R content. That's on passes. But I just wanted to do this episode because I feel like this time of year comes with a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety for honestly most people. And I think a lot of that is holidays, stirring up trauma or emotions, family issues, grief, if you've lost someone, kind of everything like that. And just maybe you're feeling very distant from your New Year's resolutions that you set at the beginning of the year, or maybe you're in college or even high school, grad school, whatever, and you have midterms and finals, or just reaching quotas if you work a job, a corporate job. Or maybe you just kind of feel like you have just so much to do before the year ends, or even it could be something as simple as you're excited for the travel you have coming up, but it seems overwhelming. You have a lot of holiday travel, kind of like myself. But also it could be simple as the cold weather. It comes and it brings seasonal depression or even just like negative mood shifts from being inside more or like less time outside, less time in the sun. There's a lot of things that this time of year I feel like weigh on our mental health and on our mood and just on our brain and just overall like our health and how we're feeling. Even like we get sick more often this time of year with the cold weather. Just as the cold comes around, a lot of like heavy, maybe negative things stir up for a lot of people. But I believe that there are so many just like teeny tiny little things you can do in your daily life that make like all the difference. Like they're very small things, but just doing them will improve your life even just 1%. And I think these things are different for everyone. But today I'm going to be sharing my small habits with all of you so that maybe you guys can get like inspired or take some of them into your life, take some of mine into your life. Or maybe they are just like getting your wheels turning and figuring out like what small habits resonate more with you. But these things, like I actually got this idea from listening to an episode of Gals on the Go, and they did an episode pretty much exactly similar to this, just like their small habits. And I liked that idea because it's nothing like crazy. Like it's not like, okay, if you want to change your life, start waking up at 5 a.m. every single day, no ifs, ands, or buts. Like that's just so extreme. Or it's like, okay, no more dairy ever. Like you're going to seriously improve the quality of your health and your life. No more dairy at all ever. It's like a lot of things are like all or nothing. Whenever you hear like improving your life, it's always like these really drastic, like unattainable. Oh my God, there's like a hair on my face that I can feel and it's driving me nuts. Oh my God. Yeah, I feel like a lot of times it's really daunting, but I don't think that it has to be. So today I'm going to go through just some little things that I do in my life that I feel improve my life in a lot of different ways. But as you guys know, I've added like a new little segment to my episodes where I talk about what I am struggling with this week. And this week, well, I feel like I keep family things almost entirely off the internet. Like I don't talk too much about my childhood or my relationship with my parents or things like that. Mostly out of respect for my family, but also because for me, family stuff and like my childhood and whatnot is something that I'm still really working through in therapy and something that I feel like I have a lot of just things to work on in that realm, a lot of things to reflect on, heal from, use to grow, just like a lot of things. And I just feel like it's just family stuff is just something that I just have never felt comfortable putting on the internet, but it is like mostly a respect thing. Like, yeah, I do this as a job, but like my parents work their, 9-to-5 jobs and like there's no reason to put like what's going on in my family like on the internet, But what I will say is that what I've been struggling with this week is being the sibling that moved away. And like when it comes to holidays and whatnot, I am always the one that has to travel if I want to see my family. And I get it. Like I chose to move away and I'm the only sibling without kids. So just like inherently it makes more sense for me to come home. Like there is less pieces of the puzzle for me to travel home. And also like there's one of me, like I know it's a logistical thing and a financial thing because it's like just one of me going. So I do get it, but it is also frustrating and it kind of has been leading me and just like it just leads my anxious overthinking brain to feel like I'm I guess like a last priority to my parents, because it's like the only way that they would ever, or that they can ever come to see me, is if it doesn't interfere with like the plans of my siblings and their kids. And again, like, I understand it's like, it logistically makes sense. It financially makes sense. It's cheaper for me, only me, to go home. It's easier for just me to go home. And, you know, they're all up in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, and I'm the one that's in California, or I was the one in Florida, you know, like, I'm the one that chose to move away. So it's kind of my duty to come home, and I always do. But I guess what I've been struggling with is I just want to show my family, but like specifically my parents, like the life that I created for myself, and like make them proud in that way. And I also get a little bit frustrated because like I think my family feels like they see that and they know what's going on in my life because I post on social media so much, and like they see my YouTube videos and they see my pictures, and they feel like they know a lot about me and my life and have an idea of like where I live and all that. But it's like, it's different because one, it's like what I choose to share online is like probably a lot more of a bare minimum than like what I would want to show them. And also it's just like, okay, you guys get to see it on my life, but I don't get like time in your life necessarily, unless like I take the time to go home. And like I said, I usually do, and I enjoy going home. And I'm not trying to sound ungrateful or like a brat or anything. It's just like something that's been on my mind. And I have also been learning, the older I get, that quality time is like so important to me. And like one of my biggest worries, you guys know I have talked a lot about how I just, even literally since I was like a little girl, and my dad literally was like 40 something years old, 50 something years old, I've always just been like, oh my God, he's so old, like I don't have much time with him. Like my whole life I felt that way. And it just gets worse and worse and worse as I get older and he gets older. And then like I still see my mom as this like really young person because she's just like in really good health and whatnot. But like at the end of the day, she's also getting older. And I just like hate that I miss out on so much time with them being far away. But like me, like what, like eyes are watering right now talking about this. Clearly it's a sensitive topic, but I think I just want time with them, and I want them to be able to see my life and what I've created for myself. Literally, like I cry way too easily. Like why am I tearing up? But it's just what's been on my mind this week and what I've been struggling with. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate in some capacity as well. So I wanted to bring that up. But with that being said, and just having my mind been kind of preoccupied with that, I feel like the small habits I'm going to be talking to you guys about help with calming that anxious brain, or just making my life better just even a little bit when I am feeling any sort of way, but especially when I, like with the way I've been feeling recently and just with holidays and everything that comes up. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about my small habits. I think I picked 5 for you guys. So the first one is not answering texts or emails pertaining to work until I've completed my morning routine. So also, if you're watching on YouTube, like Secrets Revealed, I write out a lot of notes for my podcast. So if I'm like looking over in the corner, it's because I'm like reading my notes. So sorry, I can't look directly at you this whole time. But I have always been someone who just wakes up very anxious, and my first instinct is, oh my God, okay, like I need to check everything that I missed while I was sleeping, and I need to get right to work. Like that's my automatic thought as soon as I open my eyes. And this heightened significantly once I moved to LA. And why did I just say it like that? LA, that was disgusting. Once I moved to LA and was now on Pacific Coast time, Pacific time, whatever. When mostly everyone I work with is on the East Coast, and also like all my friends and all my family and like my internal clock, you know, because I lived on the East Coast my whole life until now. So that heightened a lot when I moved here, and I was like behind now. So like not only would I wake up with a lot of different work texts and emails because, you know, the people on the East Coast have been hard at work since they're 3 hours ahead, I would also feel like bad because I'm like, okay, it's 7 a.m. here, but it's also like it's nearing lunchtime for them and they're probably waiting on me and blah, blah, blah. Like so many anxious thoughts, like just spiraling immediately, like first thing in the morning. And so eventually, like a month ago, I was like, okay, Soph, it can wait. Like it can wait. Because the thing is, like, sometimes I'd have a text from, say, like my manager, and it's about like an edit I need to make for a brand video. And I would read it right after I woke up, and I would feel all anxious about it and just feel like it was a big task and it was really daunting. Like it would always just feel really daunting. But I started noticing that when I waited until I had gone through my morning routine to answer, the task I needed to do didn't seem daunting anymore. Like it was just like my brain hadn't taken a second to like even realize it was awake, realize like, okay, we're here in the morning. Like it just immediately jumps into like panic, like work mode. And that is just like a really unsafe headspace to be in, like right when you wake up without even like taking a sip of water, taking a breath, nothing, like jumping immediately into that. Like no wonder the tasks at hand felt so daunting. And so nowadays I wake up and honestly, like I usually end up reading the texts and emails that came in because, you know, like I look at my phone. I can't resist. I gotta look at them, you know? But I read them and then I mark them as unread so that I remember to reread them. And I go about my morning. I make my bed. I take my vitamins. I take Augie for a WALK. I make breakfast. I work out. I shower. And then I will answer my messages and get to work. And I just like, it's just about setting myself up to have the proper headspace I need in order to bring the best version of myself into my career. And in all honesty, like I'm answering like an hour and a half or 2 hours later than I would have. But the thing is, like, even if I had answered the messages, the emails right away, like I wouldn't have even started working on the whatever I needed to do until after my morning routine anyways. So I usually just wait it out. There's been a couple times where it's like, okay, this seems a little more urgent, like I'm going to make an exception and answer this. But for the most part, I really stick to that, and it just makes my mind feel so much better. Because genuinely, like there would be times when my manager would text me and be like just send me like what a brand said about a video I made and just like edits I have to make. And I'd be like, oh my God, like that's so much work. Like how am I going to fit this in my day, blah, blah, blah. I go through my morning routine and I'm like, oh, all I have to do is cut out like 5 seconds of this and then like change the text here. Like, okay, like literally no biggie. So yeah, just that has changed my work environment so much. Literally just like within my own self. Like it probably like when my manager watches this, like he probably has not even noticed a difference. It's just like a small change within my own life. And I also kind of do it with friends. Like I don't necessarily really text them back until after my morning routine. Like I just don't really do much of anything on my phone before my morning routine, except I post a good morning picture on Snapchat to like engage with you guys and like get the day started. But I really just try to like take the morning for myself, and it really has been helping my mind a lot. The next little habit is reading before bed. And I know that I've pretty much drilled this into your brain at this point, but you guys, reading before bed has literally changed my life. Like, not even trying to sound dramatic, I'm so serious. I have never fallen asleep faster, slept harder, or felt more well rested in the mornings than I do now since I started reading before bed. Like, you guys, I used to lay in bed for hours, tossing and turning, physically unable to turn my brain off. I would be like, oh, I got to do this. It was like as soon as I got into bed, I was wired. Like, suddenly I had so much to do and see and think, and oh shoot, I need to do this and check that, and like, oh my God, it was like a never-ending thought train. I would go on my phone, I'd scroll for hours, I would just like be all amped up, all wired, and just like, I literally never woke up feeling rested. I always felt tired and sore and stiff and just like blech in the morning. And then to add to that, I answer work stuff right away, setting myself up for literally the worst mental health in the world. But no longer, you guys. Don't worry. I read in bed every single night until I am like physically unable, cannot keep my eyes open. And then I turn on I have like a Hatch alarm, which it honestly is like a really great investment. I love my Hatch alarm clock, but it has like a bedtime setting that I set. It puts on a little red light and soft music for 15 minutes, and then it goes into brown noise, not white noise, brown noise. It's life-changing for the rest of the night with like no light. And you guys, I'm out in like 5 minutes tops once I put my book away. And like my Aura ring that I wear even confirms that. Like, it takes me like 3 to 5 minutes to fall asleep. And I sleep so hard and I wake up feeling so good. Like, it is seriously game changer. And then on top of that, I'm like building my knowledge and like using my brain in a way that like I haven't in so long. And reading just makes me feel really, really good. I've been cruising through books. Side note, I'm reading Locked Door right now by Frida McFadden, and it's just starting to get good. And I'm like, I want to, literally, I'm doing this at 12 o'clock right now, and my goal is to finish everything I have to do by like 2 or 3 because I want to read all afternoon. But anyways, yeah, reading before bed seriously has improved my life because it seriously improves my quality of sleep, and sleep is so, so important, you guys. Okay, the third habit this is like a kind of fun one. It's writing down my instinctive reactions in a journal. And I feel like all of us can relate to when something in our lives happens that it like provokes a strong emotion, whether it be anger, sadness, fear, jealousy, but even like positive ones like happiness, excitement, whatever, positively charged emotions. We get those initial instinctive reactions or thoughts or feelings. Like, for example, maybe your friend made an insensitive comment that bothered you, or maybe your coworker was just like kind of a dick to you for no real reason. And you just get that initial like tsunami of emotions. Like, oftentimes these thoughts and emotions are really extreme or overgeneralized. Like, you might think like, God, my friend is such an asshole and immature. How could they ever think that comment was okay to say? Like, they are the worst person. Like, why do they always make that? Like, why do they always say shit like that? Just like extreme thoughts, you know? When you probably don't, like, even in that moment, you don't actually think that your friend is insensitive or an asshole. You're probably just like triggered by what they said in one way or another. Or, you know, like, you would just never say your instinctive reaction, like what it was. You would never say that to them, and probably not to anyone. Like, these are just like our instinctive, just like judgmental, fully biased thoughts that stay in our own brain because we immediately know, like, they're not logical, they're not kind or appropriate. They're just like that, like, you get triggered in some way and you have that thought that's like, it's not even you, it's just like like evil, it's like the devil on your shoulder that you get sometimes when like you have a very strong emotion pop up. And so like usually what do we do when we feel that? Like we keep it in. But the problem with keeping it in is that we build resentment. So the next time your friend does something that bothers you, or your coworker or whatever, even if it's like entirely unrelated, you're going to be like, oh, yep, they're an asshole, just like I thought. Confirmation bias, like we had that thought like, damn, they're an asshole, because we had that like initial thought, and then something happens again, and when really they're just human, and maybe we don't like agree with every thought they have, which is like totally fine, but we just have that like initial like, wow, they suck, and then something else happens and you're like, yep, see, I knew they sucked. But this is just the resentment. This is how we process things sometimes, or at least how I do. Maybe you guys are sitting there like, seek help. But I feel like a lot of us are similar to that. And so what I started to do was, when I get those really extreme, unnecessary, and like disproportionate reactions to situations, I go to my journal and I write down exactly what I'm thinking with no filter whatsoever. These will never see the light of day. I won't even bring these to my therapist. These are the X-rated underground thoughts that will never, ever, ever see the light of day, ever. And sometimes what I write down is like actually so mean, and it's not even how I truly feel. Like, it's not actually how I feel about a person or a situation, but it's just like a passing emotion I had before the logical side of my brain came in, or like the reasoning side of my brain came in. And it's how I truly felt in the moment when something was triggered and the bubble of thought encompassed my brain. And instead of letting it reside within my brain and build up and build resentment and become sort of a truth, I write it down and I release it. And it really does just feel so good. And it feels like I'm physically letting go of a yucky feeling that I otherwise would have held on to, because I don't need to hold on to it. It's on paper. If I need to remember it, I'll go read the paper that I wrote, It's there, it's gone, I got it out. It's not on my chest, it's not in my brain. It's out on paper and I can let it go. It's not how I truly feel. It's just the heightened emotion I felt before the other parts of our brain that we use to be a human kick in. It's just like that instinctive, animalistic thought. Wow, they really suck. Wow, they are so mean to me. They're not mean to me. They made a mistake. Or they did something hurtful, but it was not intentional, and it was like a one-off. They're a really great person, but they did something that bothers me. And then you address it from there. They don't suck as a human being. They're not a bad person. Of course, it doesn't apply to every situation, but in general, you have these thoughts. And you just want to get them off your chest sometimes. And sometimes you don't even want to bring them to your therapist. You just want to let them live and die. And leaving them in a journal is a really great place to let a thought you don't want to see the light of day live and die. My fourth little habit is leaning into cravings. And I know that I've talked a good amount about struggles with eating disorders in the past, and my restrictive relationships with food throughout childhood and my teenage years and even young adulthood. But something that I haven't talked about too much is that last year, kind of around this time, I had developed a different kind of disordered eating that I hadn't experienced before, that resulted in me binging and binging and binging on food in the evenings. And I do think that part of this was my body's maybe like extreme hunger after receiving proper medical treatment for the undiagnosed chronic illness that I was dying from, and just like trying to regain all the nutrients and life that it lost while I was sick for God knows how long. I recognize that a lot of it was probably that. However, it was beyond that, and I'm 100% sure of that. And as I've worked past that disordered eating and talked through what was really going on mentally with that entire situation, I realized that I was so afraid of so many foods post-diagnosis. If you guys don't know, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I was so afraid of so many foods post-diagnosis that I deemed as quote-unquote bad for my blood sugar. And I was avoiding so many of my favorite foods, was missing out on so many opportunities and experiences and memories with friends and family, and pretending like it didn't bother me. Pretending like I wasn't sad, I could, quote, no longer have some of my favorite foods that made me so happy. So this restricting led me to binge any and all food that I declared okay, like to be okay for my blood sugar. But the thing is, like, I still had and have type 1 diabetes, whether I ate, say, a bagel or not. I still had high blood sugars, even when I was eating only foods that felt safe for me. Because duh, I have fucking type 1 diabetes. Literally existing makes my blood sugar raise. Waking up makes my blood sugar raise. Anxiety makes my blood sugar raise. It was inevitable. Hormones make my blood sugar raise. Like, it was inevitable. Like, I'm going to have high blood sugar. And what's interesting is that as I healed from this journey and I welcomed in these foods I was so afraid of, I stopped binging. And even better, I learned how to dose insulin, obviously, for the foods that I used to avoid, because actually eating them and learning from them every time I ate them, like, it allowed me to eat them more. Like, I was so afraid of pizza because I didn't know how to dose insulin for it. And every time I would try, it would make my blood sugar go crazy. And then I would panic and health anxiety, blah, blah, blah. So I just didn't eat it. And then I would binge on like ground turkey at 10 o'clock at night, like an excessive. And like, this is also obviously anytime I talk about eating disorders, like, it's very sensitive topic for a lot of people. And I recognize that. And this is something that like the camera did not see. You guys did not see how extreme it had gotten at one point. And once I worked through that and welcomed these foods I was so afraid of back in, like, it just made such a difference. And if you would have told me a year ago that I'd be pretty dang good at dosing for ice cream and pizza, like, I would have never believed you even a little bit. Like, I genuinely thought it was impossible. And if you told me that every single Sunday my girlfriend and I get pastries for breakfast, I think I would have dropped dead. Like, I would not have even thought that was possible. And giving into my cravings did the opposite thing it feared it would do. Like, eating those foods I feared has made me healthier overall, because I'm no longer binging to the point where I'm ill for days on end over the food the capacity of food I consumed, way past my hunger cues. I got to enjoy these foods that I love. I got to experience things with my friends, my family, my girlfriend, and mentally it just has helped me so significantly. And you cannot be healthy physically if you are not healthy mentally. I don't care if you have a six-pack. I don't care if you work out every single day. I don't care if you have a super strong heart. You are not a healthy human being if your mind is not healthy. And adding in these foods that I was so afraid of, that I love and enjoy and improve the quality of my life overall, has seriously made me feel so much better and made me feel and be so much healthier. And the last little habit is exploring my creative side. So I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory, but things I do to explore my creative side are cooking, decorating, like my apartment, fashion, exploring just that whole side of my brain that I really love and haven't really tended to. Makeup is another thing I never really tended to, but really enjoy doing. Taking pictures, obviously, filming and editing videos, obviously. Even my podcast. All of these things are just very, very fulfilling for me. And adding these things and exploring this side of me. Obviously, dance actually falls into this as well, but that's something that I wish I would incorporate more. But all of those fulfill me as a human. That's like in addition to, time with friends, time with family, time with my girlfriend. But these are like things within myself that make me feel the most me and honestly like the most beautiful, the most connected with myself, all of that. But that one's pretty self-explanatory, but I just feel like exploring your creative side is so special and something that I don't think we tend to enough overall. But anyways, that is everything. That is all of my little habits that I wrote down for you guys and that I do in my daily life. So I really hope that you guys got a thing or two from this. I hope you feel inspired and just maybe you want to explore your creative side. I don't know. But I love you guys so much. Really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you follow me on all of my other social media and I will see you so super soon. Actually, see and talk to you so super soon in the next episode. Bye.